It's episode 523 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to be ranking the top 10 draft picks in Texas Rangers franchise history. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get started.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm your host, Brice Paterik, here today to rank the top 10 draft picks in Texas Rangers franchise history. Before that, I want to thank you guys so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen of the day. If you're not already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter, at Brice Paterik. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and subscribe on YouTube. Now, on yesterday's episode, I continued my ranking of the top 10 Rangers prospects. I guess technically it's today's episode because both these are coming out on Monday. But on today's episode, I'm just continuing. It's just a rankings month. This is just kind of what it is. I'll have more on what's going on, the latest developments with MLBPA and MLB's discussion, where the lockout stands, and all that and more on later coming up this week. But today I am ranking things, and the things that I'm ranking today are the top 10 draft picks in Rangers history. Now, I'm literally just including Texas Rangers history. I'm not including I'm about to say Washington Generals, but the Washington Senators draft history. Otherwise, I would have had a few more picks that were pretty easy and couldn't have gotten in some of the guys that I really wanted to sneak in. But let's go ahead and start with number 10. We're doing reverse order on these. Number 10, we have Hank Blaylock, the third baseman, the third round draft by the Rangers in the 1999 draft out of Rancho Bernardo High School in San Diego, California. This guy was a legend in his short time in Texas, made 2 All-Star games, got MVP votes in 2004, had a really short career. Injuries really hampered him. It's a real bummer because this guy was absolutely lightning whenever he was with the Rangers. Had a couple of great seasons, spent 8 years with the Rangers, 910 games. In those 910 games, had 152 home runs, a career slash line of 269, 329, and 464. Received top 20 in MVP votes in 2004. That was his best season by far with the Rangers. 159 games, 32 home runs, 38 doubles, 110 ribbies if you're into that sort of thing. Slugged 500 on base of 355 and 855 OPS that year. Also had 3 triples. But this guy was very electric, entertaining, had a career WAR in 8 seasons with the Rangers of 13.5. Though 8 seasons kind of cuts him short, only 910 games. He played under 70 games in 2007, 2008. Only played 123 games in 2009. Also only played 49 games in his rookie season of 2002. But this guy was electric. He was a lot of fun, and he did a lot of good things for the Rangers. Definitely worth a top 10 ranking. Also, the Rangers don't have a super stellar draft history, so kind of had to scrape the bottom of the barrel for some of these guys. Not that he's scraping the bottom of the barrel. Love you, Hank. Love you forever. Number 9 on this list. That's right. It's the straight edge racer, CJ Wilson. This guy was only with the Rangers for a few years, it felt like, and he was only a starter for 2 years, but he was solid out of the bullpen, and he was excellent as a starter, leading the Rangers to back-to-back World Series in 2010 at 11 as their ace his only years. Oh, I guess 2010 he wasn't really their ace. Cliff Lee was towards the end, but during the regular season, that was when he was at his ace level. He was an all-star in 2011, was 6th place in Cy Young voting that year. 2011, his best year. 223 in a third innings, 206 strikeouts, a 2.94 ERA in 34 games started, which tied for the league lead. A 1.50 ERA plus. The year before, he had a 1.34 ERA plus as a starter in 204 innings. So both the years that he was a starter, he pitched over 200 innings and was really stinking solid. Only had 93 walks that year. It was just really solid out of the bullpen as well for the Rangers. His 2 years as a starter, his WAR was a 5-WAR season. In his first year as a starter in 2010, which he didn't receive any Cy Young votes, which still feels a little weird, and also wasn't an All-Star, which also feels a little weird, and a 4.9 WAR in his second season as a starter. Then went on to be slightly overpaid in LA, and have a bunch of mediocre seasons there. Love that for him. Love that he was there. Also was selected as an All-Star his first year, but still didn't do super well. I don't really know how he got an All-Star there, but not in 2010. Maybe it was a makeup year, but he's definitely deserved to be a 2-time All-Star. But yeah, this guy was solid with the Rangers, an ERA plus of 166 when he was in the bullpen. His last year in the bullpen in 2009, had pitched in 73 games. Only had 14 saves though in 73 and 2/3 innings. Rangers weren't as great then. 84 strikeouts, so more than 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Never a huge strikeouts guy, but was able to get them when he needed them, and just provided the Rangers a whole lot of value for what they got in him. I mean, he was drafted by the Rangers in the 5th round of the 2001 draft out of Loyola Marymount University in LA. Guy grew up in California, was very much a California kid, and of course wanted to go back there when he went and pitched in Anaheim, and hasn't pitched since 2015. He is, technically past the limit to where he needed to wait to get on the Hall of Fame ballot, but I don't think he's getting on any Hall of Fame ballots. But he is on the Hall of Very Good for the Rangers, enough to be a top 10 player in these in my little specific rankings. But yeah, he's definitely left you hungry for more. Wish he would have pitched a few more years with the Rangers, but I understand why the Rangers moved on from him. And after 2011, they were all focused on re-signing Cliff Lee. They didn't get him. They didn't get CJ Wilson. So they had to settle for Adrian Beltre. I think things worked out all right there. But, the Rangers were definitely hungry for more. But when I'm getting hungry, I go and reach for the Built Bar. That's right. This episode is sponsored by Built Bar. It's the new year, which means New Year's resolution. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in that plan. Those Built Bars, they are fantastic for you. The reason I won't shut up about them is not just because they pay me. I would do it for free, but I don't do it for free because they are so good that they, need more money. They need your money. They need to take your money, and so you can eat these delicious Built Bars. You can't get those for free, but it's a pretty sweet freaking deal. These things are absolutely delicious. They are good for you. If you're not super great about, staying fit and working out, then you can just eat a little bit healthier, and Built Bars are a great way to do that. Most of these bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar that usually has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. These things taste like candy bars, but they're even better for you, and some of them taste even better than candy bars, depending on the flavor, depending on your preference, but every single one of them is good. There's so many different flavors. You got to go try out a box. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at Built.com. This episode is also brought to you by RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's impossible, absolutely impossible, for your local auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why would you go to the store and they ask you a whole bunch of questions? Go to RockAuto.com if you know what you're looking for. If you're like that Ron Swanson scene when he goes to the Home Depot or whatever, and he's like, can I help you? Like, no, I know more than you. If that's you with cars, then RockAuto.com is the exact place for you to go. They've got savings, all kinds of savings and all kinds of selection. If you know what you want, why would you spend up to 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? RockAuto.com, they're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low and the same for every single customer. So why would you spend more at other places just because you're not a mechanic? That seems dumb. It's smarter to go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in your How Did They Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Now we are continuing with ranking the top 10 Rangers draft picks in Rangers history. Just Texas Rangers history, not Washington history. Now let's move on. We are at number 8. That is the unheralded Pete O'Brien. Rangers drafted him in the 15th round of the 1979 Major League draft out of University of Nebraska in Lincoln. This guy had a pretty solid Rangers career, spent the vast majority of his career with the Rangers, 7 years in Texas, 4 years in Seattle, 1 year in Cleveland, 946 games with Texas. During that time, he had an OPS of 780. I know that doesn't look like much, but the guy had some really, really solid seasons, and defensively he was able to provide a whole lot of war. If you don't know who he is, he's a first baseman / outfielder. hit left-handed, was born in Santa Monica, and quite a journey. Went to school in Monterey Peninsula College in Monterey, California, then transferred to Lincoln, then came to Texas and spent a good chunk of time there. In his 7 years in Texas, he had a career WAR of 18.2. According to Baseball Reference, that is a really, really solid career for him. Received MVP votes in the 1998 season, which was his best year, a 4.5 WAR, according to Baseball Reference. That was his age 28 season. Hit 290, a 385 on base, and a 468 slugging percentage. I believe, yes, that was his highest career on base percentage. 23 home runs, 23 doubles, 3 triples. The guy was an on-base machine. 87 walks to 66 strikeouts. This guy knew how to walk, knew how to get on base, and had more walks than strikeouts in his career. 641 walks in his career, 563 strikeouts. Love to see that. Pretty solid guy. Again, spent quite a few years with the Rangers and deserves love and appreciation. Not as much as this next guy, though. This next guy is, of course, you probably knew that I'd find a way to shoehorn this guy in here. Of course, at number 7, it is Joey Gallo. You probably thought I'd shoehorn him at number 1 just because I love him so much. But I'm trying to be semi-objective. I'm still going to include him in here because he's the best Rangers draft pick. The only one in the last, I believe, 10 years. Let me see. C.J. Wilson, when was he drafted? Let me go double check. 2001. Yeah, so he is the only one drafted in the last 10 years that is on this list. But Joey Gallo has earned his way on this list this year. He had a fantastic year, his second All-Star season, 2 All-Star appearances, 2 Gold Gloves. I'm counting this season as being with the Rangers. 95 games this year with the Rangers. He had an 869 OPS and hit 25 home runs in 388 at-bats. Overall, he hit 38 home runs this year. He had 2 different 40 home run seasons, his first full years as starters, 145 games. He hit 41 home runs in 2017 as a 23-year-old. Then he hit 40 home runs in 2018, had an 810 OPS that year, an 869 OPS in 2017. But his real breakout year, his first All-Star season, 2019, 70 games, 279 plate appearances, 22 home runs, a batting average, for those of you who like that, of 253, on base of 389, and slugged 598 that year. That is a 986 OPS. Man, if he could have just stayed healthy that year, he would have had probably a 50 home run season and definitely would have been at least top 10 in MVP voting. The guy was on pace to have a monster season. And if he'd stayed with Texas and didn't fall off a cliff with the Yankees, it's fine. Another time. Probably would have received some MVP votes this year, had a really, really great season. And his 7 years with Texas had a career WAR of, where do we go? There, 14. Pretty solid, averaging 2 WAR a season. But again, the first 2 seasons are 36 games. 2016, he played 17 games. Only played 70 games in 2019 and 57 in 2020 and 95. So he only really had 2 full seasons with the Rangers. He had the shortened season in 2020. He had the injury shortened season in 2019 and was only up for a brief cup of coffee in 2015 and 16. So the guy put up pretty solid seasons every year with the Rangers. Had a 3 WAR season in 2019 in only 70 games. Gosh, this guy was ridiculous. And I am still so pissed that he's not with the Texas Rangers, but maybe after the Yankees are being stupid and deal him somewhere, he will come back and sign with the Rangers and actually win things and be happy, and the Rangers will treat him right and all that good stuff. But, that's a podcast for another day. But again, he definitely deserves his ranking in the top 10 of this group. Number 6, we have Jim Sunberg. I didn't really know what to do with Jim Sunberg. His offensive numbers are just bad, and I can't go back and watch his games from 1974 to 1983 with the Rangers, and also in 1988 and 89. But the guy played a long time with Texas. 12 years, 1,512 games with the Rangers. Had a career WAR in Texas of 34.7. That's basically the main reason that I included him on here, because his defense must have been absolutely spectacular. Won several Gold Gloves with the Rangers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight from 1976 to 1981. Was an All-Star just twice in his Rangers career, in 1978 and his rookie year, where he finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting in 1974. God, that was a long time ago. Had a 4 WAR season that year. Offensively, didn't do a whole lot with the Rangers. Only 60 home runs in 1,512 games, over 5,300 plate appearances, a career OPS of 675, a career OPS plus of 91. The very rare, significantly more caught stealings than stolen bases, 18 successful stolen bases, and caught stealing 33 times, 60 home runs, 27 triples. Pretty solid for a catcher, and 200 doubles, which I don't think is the Texas Rangers franchise record, but it's definitely up there on some of these leaderboards. But the guy provided a lot of value at the catching spot for a dozen years, so he definitely deserves to be on this list. Another one on this list, maybe a little bit before your time. That's right, it is Kevin Brown. He is a 6-time All-Star, 2-time career ERA title winner, 1997 World Series winner, though none of those ERA wins or the World Series were with Texas. That was with Florida in 1996. Only made one All-Star appearance with the Rangers, and looking at his career when he left the Rangers in 1995. This is so frustrating because the Rangers had two half-decent pitchers, which we'll get to the number 2 that was right there in the 90s. Then they would have been absolutely dominant in that 1996 year if they could have afforded to have the redonkulous lineup that they had, along with 2 half-decent starters. They had a pretty solid bullpen in the late 90s, but man, I didn't realize that he was there at this point, and it's very, very frustrating that he didn't do that. But he finished 6th in Cy Young voting in 1992. That was his best season with the Rangers. He had a 3.32 ERA in 265 and 2/3 innings. Really, really solid. Only 173 strikeouts, an ERA plus of 116. The guy was really great for the Rangers in his career. 8 years in Texas, an ERA plus of 108 in 1,278 and 2/3 innings. Only struck out 742 at that point, but a 3.81 career ERA in the height of the steroid era. This guy was really solid for the Rangers, drafted in fourth overall in the 1986 draft out of the Georgia Institute of Technology, which I believe is Georgia Tech now. But again, really solid career with the Rangers. A huge what if, because he really started to hit his peak like right after he left Texas with Florida and with the Dodgers, and not as much with the Yankees or the Padres or Baltimore. But still, they really, really could have used this guy. But that is number 5, Kevin Brown. We're going to get into number 4. We're definitely going to get into number 4. And I bet you might know who it is. But first, if you want to bet on sports, there may be, you can go to betonline.ag. There may be less football being played, literally just one football game left this season in the NFL, unless you count the Pro Bowl, which you shouldn't because it's not really football. It's kind of dumb. But there's way more stuff to bet on during the Super Bowl, from scored totals, player performances, props to where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline is your number one spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And with the new year comes a new updated desktop and mobile website. Sign up today, receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. It's not just football. BetOnline's got basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is the number one online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now let's look at number 4, a guy who is a longtime Rangers favorite, a beloved man drafted by the Rangers in the 10th round of the 1990 Major League Draft out of the University of Montevallo in Montevallo, Alabama. That's right, it's Rusty freaking Greer. From Albertville High School in Alabama to Montevallo in Alabama, this guy made his Major League debut in 1994 at the age of 25 years old. Again, 10th round draft pick. You're not expecting a whole lot from those guys. The Raiders done really, really well at getting quality guys in the later rounds, in the early rounds. Whew. Their history is not super duper great outside of, Joey Gallo and Kevin Brown and one of the other guys coming up in this rankings list. But he pitched in Texas he played in Texas his entire career in Texas, 9 years, 1,027 games, ended up with 119 career home home runs, 25 career triples, 258 career doubles, a career slash line of 305, 387, and 478. That's an 865 slugging percentage for those of you playing along at home. His best season in Texas, I believe, was 1997, a year that the Rangers missed off on the playoffs, but did receive MVP votes for the first time and only time in his career. Also was top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting, third in 80 games, 331 plate appearances. He had an OPS of 898, 10 home runs, and 16 doubles that year as a rookie with a 410 on base. This guy was an on-base machine, knew how to walk, knew how to hit as well. His best year, 1997, 157 games, 26 home runs, 42 doubles, a slash line of 321, 405, 531. That's a 936 on base percentage, a 138 OPS plus. A 936 OPS, not a 936 on base percentage. That would be absolutely insane. But the guy had a really solid career, was really good with the Rangers, solid defensively, really solid offensively. And in 9 years, his career WAR with the Rangers was 22.4, according to Baseball Reference. Solid guy, solid player with the Rangers. Much love to Rusty Greer, now and always. The next guy wasn't here as long, was one of the few good Rangers draft picks in the first round. Drafted in the first round, 5th overall in the 2001 amateur draft from the Georgia Institute of Technology. I'm pretty darn sure this is Georgia Tech, as if there's no Georgia Institute of Technology that I know. But anyway, all this to say, it's Mark Teixeira. Guy was a 3-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glove winner, also won 3 Silver Sluggers and the 2009 World Series. Also netted the Rangers an absolute theft from the Atlanta Braves, though he ended up being worth it. I think people, they're disillusioned with what Mark Teixeira did in the places that weren't New York or Texas. But man, that guy absolutely did live up to the billing. In 2003, he made his major league debut. Did play in 146 games. I don't know who was doing that much better than him in 2003, but finished 5th in Rookie of the Year voting. Let me double check. Okay, some of the guys who finished ahead of him in Rookie of the Year voting, I don't even know who half of these guys are. Angel Baroa, Hideki Matsui, all right, that makes sense. Rocco Baldelli, okay, I do know who that is. And Jody Garrett. Fine. He was 3rd in WAR among those players. Of course, the guy with the second lowest WAR, or the 2 guys with the lowest WAR were 1 and 2 in Baroa and Matsui. But the guy had a really solid career in Texas, only played 5 years here, 693 games. Rangers traded him at the absolute peak of his value. A career OPS in Texas of 901, an OPS plus of 128. On base, 368, slugged 533, 153 home runs in 693 games, just over 3,000 plate appearances. Also 173 doubles and 12 triples. The guy was an absolute machine, finished top 10 in MVP voting in 2005, age 25 season, one of the final seasons in Texas. The Rangers traded him in 2007. That year, 2005, at his peak, 43 home runs, batting average of 301, on base 379, slugged 575, a 954 OPS. Just ridiculous. Also 41 doubles. A 40 homer, 40 double season. This guy was a doubles machine. Switch hitter, could do it all. 144 OPS plus. This guy was a monster. 370 total bases, which led the American League. Guy was a monster. Played in all 162 games. Played in all 162 games next year. Had another 30 home run season. Had his only full seasons in Texas. He had 26 home runs, 38, 43, 33, 30. Guy was a monster in Texas, and the Rangers traded him at the right time to help them, get over the hump. It would have been fun to have this guy around in just a couple years earlier. You put this guy there in 2001 with that A-Rod lineup, and also with Pudge and some of the other guys on that team. That would have been a lot of fun. But again, they still wouldn't have any pitching, and that would have been really frustrating. But Mark Teixeira, didn't leave on necessarily the best of terms, but set things up for the best era of Texas Rangers baseball. So much respect to that man. Now we are on number 2. This is a guy who the Rangers drafted In the 39th round, you probably already know who this is if you are a big Rangers history buff. 39th round of the 1982 junior amateur draft from Plant City High School in Plant City, Florida. So he is indeed a Florida man. Guy won 5 Gold Gloves, 4 All-Stars, a 1996 World Series, not with the Rangers. But this guy is Kenny Rogers, a guy who was absolutely dominant with the Rangers at his peak. Only was an All-Star for 1 year, and his first go-round in Texas, was drafted by Texas, made his major debut in 1989, pitched with the Rangers through 1995, then was with the Yankees in 96 to 97, spent some time in Oakland and with the Mets, then came back to Texas for a little bit, went to Minnesota, then came back to Texas again, then went to Detroit. But he had 2 All-Star appearances at age 39 and 40 in his final stint in Texas. Pretty solid stuff. That must have been really, really the height of the steroid era, because he made an All-Star appearance with a 4.76 ERA, but pitched 211 innings as a 39-year-old, then threw 195 as a 40-year-old. His final season in the big leagues was with Detroit. Not super splendid, 5.70 ERA, but at 43, he threw 173 innings. That's just kind of insane, and just a testament to the kind of guy and the kind of pitcher that he was. Guy was an excellent defensive pitcher, pitched with the Rangers for 12 years in total, 1,909 innings on the dot. Also was a little bit of reliever, dabbled in that, had 21 complete games, 6 shutouts, 28 saves, a 4.16 ERA in that point, an ERA plus of 1.11. So, guy was solid with the Rangers. Did a lot of good things for Texas in 12 years. He had a career WAR, according to Baseball Reference, with the Rangers of 31.2, which I believe is where'd we go? Is one of the best in Rangers history, if not the best among pitchers. Nope, not quite. He's definitely up there though. Kenny Rogers is 10th in career Baseball Reference WAR among Rangers. Charlie Huff, I believe, is the only pitcher that beat him out for career WAR with the Rangers. But the guy was solid. I mean, I can't believe that a guy in the 39th round of the draft was able to make this big of a difference for the Rangers. Just a kid out of high school, ended up throwing a perfect game and having a really, really solid major league career. And again, he left the Rangers in 1996. To think what would have happened if he and Kevin Brown both stayed in Texas through those playoff years. They had these two guys. They might have won a World Series then. And, 2011 might not have hurt as bad. I mean, I wouldn't have been alive to remember it. It had been like those Cowboys Super Bowls. Like, oh, it's nice to look at that in hindsight and be told that was nice. But, I don't remember it. But it still would have been nice for the Rangers to have gotten one, and for Pudge to have won one here. Then maybe he never goes to Florida. And, who knows, all kinds of what ifs that would have happened if the Rangers had actually kept those 2 starting pitchers going into the 1996 season. It's fine. We'll never know, but I'll always be curious. The last guy on my list, I'm pretty sure you already know who this guy is. He was drafted 3 times, twice by the Diamondbacks. First time in the 29th round in 2000, then in the 26th round, 2001, then by the Rangers all the way up in the 17th round of the 2003 amateur draft from the University of Missouri. That's right, it's the one, the only, the great Ian freaking Kinsler. This guy is 5th in Rangers career WAR, according to Baseball Reference, 35 career WAR with the Rangers. The guy was an absolute legend. The only, since 2000, the only drafted player, hold on, let me double check that to make sure. Yeah. Nope, Mark Teixeira did it in 2005, but one of 2. That's right, only 2 players drafted by the Rangers to lead the team in WAR in the 21st century. Kind of insane. Scratch that. Position players. Kenny Rogers, again proving me wrong. Dang it, Kenny. Rogers did it in 2000. Mark Teixeira did it in 2005. Ian Kinsler did it twice. There we go. Thrice. Excuse me. Good Lord, I am just on an error streak today. Call me Mike Napoli playing left field, because I am coughing up errors constantly. The only one to do it multiple times. There we go. since the turn of the century. The guy did it 3 times. Ian Kinsler had a 7 WAR in 2011, led the Rangers, a 6.0 WAR 2009, which led the Rangers, and a 4.1 WAR, which led the Rangers in 2007. Man, that 2017 must have been real rough for a guy with 4 WAR to lead the Rangers. It's almost like this year, but Joey Gallo led the Rangers with 4 WAR, and he was traded after 90-something games for the team. Whew. Man, this year was really rough. But Ian Kinsler was a solid contributor for the Ranger, one of the most important players on those teams of the best era of Texas Rangers baseball, and things all started going downhill once they traded him away. Not his fault, made sense at the time. I will still defend that, but it still very much hurts my feelings and makes me very, very sad. Received MVP votes 3 times in his career with Texas. Was 20th in 2008, was 26th in 2009, was 11th in 2011, and nope, sorry, that's it. He was a 4-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove winner, won the 2018 World Series, which I kind of forgot about because he played for Boston. Completely forgot about that. Very forgettable 37 games in 2018 with Boston, a 604 OPS, and then finished his career in 2019 with the Padres, 87 games, a 646 OPS that year. But was really solid with the Rangers. His best year was in 2008. He was an All-Star that year. He has at least highest OPS. He had an 892 OPS in 121 games. He had 4 triples, 41 doubles, and 18 home runs. Again, in under 600 plate appearances. Really solid. On base of 375. Never a super huge on base guy was Ian Kinsler. 349 for his career in Texas, and 804 OPS for his career in Texas. 156 home runs, 23 triples, and 249 doubles. Solid career, solid defender, heart and soul guy, absolute grit guy, big steals guy. Had a couple of 30-30 seasons in 2009. 31 stolen bases, 31 home runs, and in 2011, 32 home runs, a career high, and 30 stolen bases. Much love to this guy. Understand his frustration with the timing when he got yeeted on out of there to Detroit. I mean, I'd be pissed too if someone sent me from Dallas to Detroit. Like that's a real downgrade, even though the Tigers were absolutely crushing it at that point. But again, real bummer how things ended with his career. But he was so solid and deserves much love because he is, according to me, the best Rangers draft pick in franchise history. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. I'll be back later this week. Hopefully an episode with Grant. It's been a hot minute, but hopefully we can get him on and maybe a crossover episode. We'll see how many other episodes we get out this week. But that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.